So it was 2021. Where do we go from here? Eurovision, to do or not to?
And there are so many questions which led up to that question as well. At the time, we were a 4-piece band that quickly turned into a 3-piece band. The decision to actually enter Eurovision happened after.
I think we wanted to find a way how to release songs. Sort of, we wanted to find a new platform.
We know the producer. We're definitely taking part in Eurovision. Somehow we're going to submit. We have literally less than 30 days.
I think most of it was coming from people don't take us seriously, probably. Sort of, I think one thing we did not want for sure is that we were portrayed as a joke act. So yes, this is, I think, our own story of the Eurovision journey.
That's our own story.
Our own story. I love the name.
The 2021 question. Where do we go from here?
Okay. And how can you define yourself from the other people releasing music which have exactly the same resources, exactly the same sources of where to send the song?
I think coming from the band scene, I don't want to say it was new, but not a lot of people were ready to take that risk.
Yeah.
Now, being a band is always, I believe, is always a disadvantage, especially when it comes to releasing music. I mean, there's that certain image with being a band, sort of, that I think
it's very 2009.
Got carried away, yes, a little bit, and even the fact that when you look into what's there at the moment, I mean, bands are struggling to have their songs out there and getting the recognition they deserve.
And when even us as individuals, when we aspire to have a band, it was in 2009, 2008, when bands were the biggest thing, you know, all the local acts were big bands, you know, which we still see today. Like I mentioned a few name drops, you know, Red Electric, Airport Impressions. There were a couple of bands that were the stuff, you know, even like Relic, for example. They were big bands that we always used to look at and look up to, and which led us to actually forming bands in the future.
And in 2021, we had a bit of a stretch of a time where we were just hanging on one song.
Yeah.
It was called Loose, which made it out as a release, which at a point I did probe if we should submit it as a Eurovision contender.
And a bit of a rewind from what Dave is saying. That was actually the first song we had released with Dave as the frontman through our collaborative EP, which was called X. And that was actually the first song with David as the main feature artist. And like it's...
At the time, it was what we had. So we were considering that as the 2022 submission, not even 2023. In a moment of uncertainty, everything was a good option.
Yeah.
You know, 2022, where we missed the boat for 2022 submission.
Typical Busker fashion, yo.
And we still lingered on the idea and romanticized us being part of Eurovision. I think it couldn't have been a different time.
No, and 2021 was just the feelings we had in 2021. They just continued it.
So it was September. We had no song, we had no producer, and we were kind of lost. Okay, we had songs, but we did not know which one's going to make it. And with Matthew James, we found sort of like that comfort that he knew us, so we can get the ball rolling quicker. And obviously this was 30 days before the submission date, and we were sort of like panicking a little bit because we did not want to miss the boat again, especially of what happened in 2021. So we went to Matthew James' studio, we presented him 5 songs, and I think deep down we were all a bit anxious because what if he did not like any of the songs? So what would have happened?
I remember a different part of that as well. There was 30 days. We know the producer. We're definitely taking part in Eurovision. Somehow we're going to submit. We have literally less than 30 days. And we have another conundrum. Ballad or faster-paced song. And I remember that conundrum really bothered me because I really did not want a ballad.
At the end of the day, we just took the challenge of writing 2 songs by the end of the month. And if one of them had the potential to do it, we'll submit it.
We started the sessions early October, so the first process was sort of, okay, we're going to choose a song and this is what we're going to work on. And we started sort of like finding the structure, because again, the song did not have any structure. Yeah. The idea was there, the skeleton was already written, but obviously we had to beef it up a little bit.
It had to turn from an idea into a song, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's 2nd October. We decided that this chapter is going to define us.
We weren't going to give up, as in we were
and as
tight, but we weren't going to give up.
procrastinators that we are, we opted to renovate the studio rather than start on the song.
Highly functioning procrastinators, okay?
So to get ourselves into the mentality of this new chapter. 3 days after we're having the first session with Matthew James, trying to structure the song. It had more or less just a beat, a bass,
The lick.
The lick. I think that was the moment where John injected this winner attitude to our psyche. It's like...
No, by then I was about 10% sure we were going to do well.
Yeah,
10% is the highest I got before we submitted
Yeah.
them before the semi-finals. So.
It was a moment where John was, okay, a winning song starts with an intro, and we were all like, yeah,
So we're going to go for it.
That's the mentality we need to adopt.
I always recall iconic songs. When you hear iconic songs, you know, like Smells Like Teen Spirit, like Sweet Child of Mine, sort of, there is that riff that gets you into the song. And I believe that our song was lacking that. Sort of, it was going straight to the verse, and sort of there was not that magical feeling of moment of like, oh, okay, the song is coming in now, you know?
Yeah, and writing
we wanted
the first 8 seconds has to always be the most impactful part, I think.
Which is strange, because usually in pop, like, they try to tell you, get to it as soon as possible. But we were not writing just for radio, we were writing for a competition, which is totally different. 11th October, my birthday, I'm generally missing it that time.
In fact, during 11th October, then during that week, obviously, we still had to keep on going. We couldn't afford to lose any time, and we focused mostly on the bridge.
I still remember the conversation, actually. Dave, you mind if we meet anyway so we keep going, right? And he's like, of course, man, let's go.
At that time, I think it was a very big trust fall for each and every one of us. None of us really took control to the extent where we didn't allow each other's creativity to flow.
Yeah, it had to be a song which represented all of us and we were all happy with. So that was one of the main characteristics which we were after.
In fact, I remember experimenting with sounds and elements for the song, and I see Sean's
face.
Sean's face.
I'm sorry about that, man. You were right, though.
And he was like,
completely right.
Guys, where are we going? I cannot
I was
understand.
worried.
He was
I'm sorry, man.
panicking, he was panicking. And then obviously you start self-doubting, and then I wanted Dave to be present, sort of like, what would Dave think about this? Sort of, does he give the approval? Because I knew where it was going, and that's the brilliance of Matthew James, is that he can take your vision and put it there.
But I remember that bridge and the whole conversation about the bridge, and we had put an arpeggiator, I remember, on it, and it was getting really dark at a point. And I'm like, oh, man, it's going to go into that rabbit hole where we go really, really dark.
And this was without lyrics, so we had no clue where it was going. But 15th October,
Dave is back.
I'm back, re-energized, inspired.
What do you think about the bridge, man?
We're a group again, okay, we can discuss, we can see where we can take the next song. But again, no lyrics and no vocal recording yet.
15th October at a wedding venue, during Sean's saxophone set. I had my rusty notebook with a pencil, because that's my process. Voice notes, recording, and just going, and lyrics were just flowing to the point where it felt like needed something. It wasn't there yet. So it is 18th October. John and I were just writing down lyrics, and I'm like, John, I'm sorry, but what do you think about this? I feel better in my sweater. And at a point it was actually,
onesie.
I feel comfy in my onesie. At the point, actually, it was good. Don't want to talk about it.
And then that changed into I feel better in my sweater. Yeah. And when they actually confirmed that that's what they wanted to do with the lyrics, again, it was like the bridge. I was terrified. But it's okay. It's okay, man. It's okay. It's okay. I have learned to trustful and to be completely comfortable with anything, even though I'm uncomfortable, and it's fine.
I still believe I feel comfy in my onesie. Could have been a version.
Can someone tell him in the comments to not...
During the session, it was the time that also the Gaga radio came in as well, because I remember sort of we wanted to envision sort of like you were at your house and you were seeing the record players, you know, with all the vinyls and everything.
Gaga radio, is this a song?
What are you doing? You're listening to a song, you know, to try to impress someone, and I think the play on words of Gaga radio, that was brilliant. In fact, originally I wanted to name the song Gaga Radio, Somehow, it really stuck out with me, that lyric.
25th October, we recorded backing vocals. We had Sean and Matthew James. John didn't really want to record any
Nowadays,
of that.
I regret it. I regret it nowadays that I did not actually record the backing vocals on it.
Yeah.
But I was like, I don't have a nice voice, so you guys do it. I don't.
And that's I think when our own party came to it, because I presented the lyrics, I couldn't get the second verse. I was like, I have the real me, our own party, and I was like, and he's like, just repeat it, and I'm like, genius. You need someone like Matthew James to take you out of this kind of zone and just allow you not to think about it much. You have it. Stop thinking about it.
I also remember the chorus part during the break after the sex lick. Somehow it came natural. I remember myself and Matthew James, we looked at each other, we were like, dance! And that was like another what? We have to put it there for sure. It came so natural, and that's what's nice about working with someone like Matthew James. Sort of, he can really read the room and get into the vibe of the song and understand where you're coming from.
His energy is infectious in a way. I remember when we were recording the lick and we were changing around some of the notes of the lick. It's every time I did a small change, he gave me the confidence to feel like I did something good, even though it was shit most times. As in, hey, let's face it, guys. If you add a note here and there, it's gonna be shit most times. But then we got to the final version, and I was so happy with it when I walked out, and I'm like, oh my god, that's my sound, and I knew it was going to be. The lick in particular, I knew it was going to be an iconic sound in terms of a saxophone lick. It was money, baby. And I actually said that on a video, didn't I? You're probably going to play that now, aren't you?
Money, baby.
So it's 27th October. 4 days before submission, we had our last production session. Honestly, you don't want to be in the room because the small changes we make, which have no significant relevance, but we still kind of dissecting to the song, it needed to happen.
To put anyone in the picture of who's not a writer, it's like the last 5 minutes of an examination where you're going through the paper really quickly to make sure that everything's all right and you wrote the detail that you wanted to put into the exam paper. You know, that's how it feels.
I remember there was a positive aura, though. I remember the room was filled with energy, and sort of, I think the four of us were all excited. We knew that we were doing something good. We did not know that it's going to be up there, but I believe there was an instinct and intuition that I think at the time we believed that we were writing our best song yet as a group.
Yeah. And 31st October, submission date.
I wasn't there, guys. I didn't press the button, but I was there.
It was a moment.
I remember on that day we were sort of watching other Eurovision performances, mostly from Malta. We were watching like the previous editions, sort of to get ourselves into like, okay, yes, we're doing this, because I believe we were still convincing ourselves deep down that this is something that we need to do.
My fear was we didn't qualify for the Eurovision, or we qualified and we really placed badly in the local one, and that would have been the nail in our coffin as a band and our final hurrah, basically. And that was my fear, and what led to a certain element of distance, because I didn't want any negative feeling which I had in my head to influence the other two people, you know, and when you have a momentum train like that, any kind of negativity can really sway you to a path of
and at that point we're just going into a whole community of people who were already established in the world of Eurovision.
And we were nobodies in that.
We were nobodies in there. You have to consider that we just came out of the 2022 Eurovision, which saw Eurovision come back after years of the representative being chosen through X Factor. It was the second year where it was back, and there was the whole controversy of who should have won in 2022 and the results of what happened and how
now
things
the
were
Emma
managed.
versus Aiden debate.
Yep. And we were convinced. We were going into a bloodbath, you know. I don't know what we were expecting. I don't know.
I was just terrified of the fact of possibly entering something which we do completely flop in, and that leading to us becoming a laughing stock, you know, especially with people who want us to be a laughing stock, you know. There's nothing to hide, you know, as in there's always jealousy, there's always people who don't want you to succeed in life, and I'm sure that those people were licking their lips when they saw the application, as in when they saw us in the competition eventually.
But we pressed that button.
Yeah, we pressed it.
And we made it through. 21st November, the 40 quarter-finalists have been revealed.
And we're one of them.
This is real.
Oh no, man. Now we actually have to do it.
First thing that popped out in my mind is like, okay, what are the other people saying about this? Sort of like the Busker entered the Eurovision, because obviously, again, we're coming from a different background, so obviously not everyone approves this decision.
My first reaction was a bit different. My first reaction was, okay, who else is taking part? And I'm like, okay, Brooke, okay, Aiden, okay, Maxine, okay, Ryan Healy, okay, Matt Black. I'm like, okay.
It was a bloodbath.
So we're going up against these Eurovision stalwarts while we're here being not even a pop band or an alternative band, but somewhere stuck in the middle where we don't even know who we are. And
I really downplayed it in my head. I couldn't be happy about it, unfortunately. It felt trying to reach a surface where everyone's just like pushing you down. It just felt constantly unbalanced immediately at the get-go. It felt like we were already at a disadvantage, and I didn't enjoy that feeling, I have to admit.
A lot of my friends had messaged me and they told me, you're seriously doing Eurovision? Are you joking? Like, why are you doing the Eurovision? Don't you already have, like, business? Aren't you already working? Like, aren't you playing in lots of venues? Aren't you already, like, haven't you made it? You know what I mean? In the local scene. And it was past that, you know, as in it's...
I don't understand why a lot of people have this misconception about Eurovision.
They look down on it a lot, and I have to admit, I'm one of them. As in, I was one of them. As in, before we entered the Eurovision, I had no idea what actually went into it. I just thought it was just 40 random people going on a stage, singing a song with a backing track, and then going home. You know, as in,
a lot of people have this concept that it's cheap, where it really isn't.
It's just something I used to put in the cap under, like, the grocery store conversations that these elderly folk have, you know, as in, I never looked at it as something fresh, young and popular, that it should be something relevant, you know. It's just something I put under the same cap as politics, problems in the country and these things, you know.
At the end of the day, if we had to dissect the possibility of having pop culture in Malta, it always revolved around Eurovision.
And in reality, I was wrong, because that's the only source of real pop culture that there is.
And celebrity culture.
Yeah, and celebrity culture. Those are the celebrities, as in.
And we don't have in Malta, we don't have a music industry. I mean, in reality, there are no record labels, there are no talent agency, there are no music management companies. So.
There are a few, but as in the music managements, they're just led by one individual.
But
you know,
it's very local.
Exactly,
it's
local,
It's not
and
something
it's very amateur. You know, it's not the high level of music management that you have abroad. I think
it's not something that is going to take you abroad. So I believe that Eurovision can be perceived sort of like a platform that it will showcase your music outside of Malta. And I remember when I saw our name in the list in the top 40, I was like, wow, okay, we made it for the first phase. And then I suddenly started seeing names like Fabrizio Faniello. These artists that I grew up watching Eurovision, and I saw them as winners. So technically, I felt a bit intimidated, sort of, okay, suddenly I'm going to compete with these Eurovision legends, you know. And I think I was willing but to take the challenge of, like, okay, let's see where is this going to take us. It's not going to be easy, but it's going to be a very interesting journey.
I think that was the very most important point. I think even though we all had kind of this hunger for success, I think we never let it overcome the possibility of just seeing what this can lead to. It's just we're literally on a journey into an abyss that we had no idea what it can provide for us.
With a ray of hope that it can lead to positive results.
I think, as Howard would say, Howard Keith, it's not about you have nothing to lose, you have everything to gain. And I think that was the moment where it's just like, just do it. 25th November.
It was the first quarterfinal meeting.
I remember this. We were all led into this big room, and seats were being filled, family members.
Seats were being filled.
Meanwhile, Jan and I were there in the background, and Gordon is the head of delegation for Malta, and he had this inspirational speech.
He loves to do that. Gordon loves to pull out inspirational sentences.
Yeah, it was like, look around you. One of you will be representing Malta. Look around.
The person sitting next to you will be representing Malta in a few months' time.
And it was a moment of imposter syndrome for me. I think there was a moment where we were like, okay, I want to be the one to be like, yes, it can be me. But I could see a lot of chests being puffed up, and I could see that I didn't have a place within these big names.
I felt very intimidated, mostly again because I knew when they announced the names, obviously you start seeing people's comments and everyone's saying the same names over and over and again. For me, it was already okay. This is not it. I mean, I remember I did not see one name actually mentioning us. And when we even announced it on our social media, I remember we got very underwhelming response as well. And there was like our people who follow us, maybe it's not their kind of thing, so maybe they are not going to support it. And during this meeting, then I remember I had a list of questions that I was waiting for the meeting to be over so I can go and have a chat with Gordon as well. Because one of my biggest worries was that we cannot be perceived as a band. And I think that's something that I always wanted us sort of like, if you think of the Busker, it's 3 people, it's a band thing, and that's what not makes us different, but that's what makes us who we are. And I remember I went with this list of questions and I asked Gordon, I told him, listen, but in the quarterfinals, can we please be with our instruments? Can we please be portrayed as a band? And he was like, yes. He rest assured me that, okay, so this journey still we can do it our own way, because obviously we all had our ideas and vision where we wanted to take our act.
After the first meeting, we had a list of things that we needed to propose to PBS about our song and where we want to take it. And it was new. We had no idea that at that premature stage we were meant to know how we're going to look, what we're going to dress, what staging we want, what camera angles we needed. Like all these things were so beyond us and it just went over our head, and we were like, okay, let's start having these discussions between the first meeting and all these things that we had to propose. I went through such a mental and self-esteem issues. I didn't feel I was enough. I didn't feel like my image is the right image for the competition. I didn't feel like I can belong. I didn't like how I looked for a long while. I was trying to change every aspect. I changed a bit of my hair. I changed how I look, how I dress.
You changed the hairstyle of that little medium.
Tried the split fringe. Nowadays I feel sad, not that I tried it obviously, or it's the fact that it was motivated by self-esteem issues. And I remember on the 17th of December when we had our first shoots and where we were shooting the 30-second snippet, I was trying to pump myself up and tell myself, yes, this is what is good. Try to feel young, given that I was 28, I think, 28. And most of the people in the competition were younger. And it just felt like I don't belong. That's it.
And I remember sort of like going there to do the video shoot, and we did not know what to do.
Nothing,
and
nothing. We were acting like a band.
We're acting like a band. Okay, guys, just move around, try, playing stuff and make sure, But again, we're still new to this, and we still did not get to that point of how we want to portray ourselves on stage. We did have ideas, yes, of where we were going to, but we were still not there yet.
When you're an act going to the Eurovision and doing the recording of your first ad, which is going to be shown on televisions, and you have to take instruction, usually people come prepared with their own thing, and they had their own gimmicks and their own little hand gestures, like the checkmate one or Aiden's little crown, there were different things, the butterfly for Maxine. There's so many different factors which were there, and
we didn't think it through.
No.
That's the reality.
Busker fashion, man.
And unfortunately, it's a matter of not knowing. There are so many things that people don't talk about. The brand that goes through, and we're not glam. We're not able to be like, hey, look at me. Like we don't know how to pose. We're not prepared for these things. We were never prepared. Let's say so. And it was a big learning curve. Placing cameras in front of us and telling us like, okay, now act. And like we were not the people to be, okay, this is not my angle, this is my angle. We had never seen ourselves on camera so much to know these things.
Yeah, just take the 3 angles and we'll choose.
Again, I'm so disappointed with how we looked for that 30-second image. I can't look at it without feeling that ick about myself.
I believe, like anything else in our story, we had to figure things ourselves. We were never managed. All we did was always sort of, there was always that homemade feeling. Sort of we had to figure out our stuff for ourselves. We did not have any outside help. So even though we did not get it right for the first time, but I believe that's what led to what came next.
The anxiety for me was definitely, are we still in time to make an impact? Are we still in time to present ourselves? Are we still in time to be part of this? Keep in mind that how it happened allowed us to make mistakes. We were lucky. We were lucky with the fact that there's quarterfinals, a semifinals, and the finals. So we had time to tweak, change, and fix ourselves. If we had to go through the semifinals and finals, it would have been a totally different story.
So after the PBS meeting, we were all scratching our heads, sort of like how we want to portray ourselves on stage. And I remember Dave, we were sending out voice notes to each other, and Dave was sort of like imagining himself with a balloon, sticking a balloon and start singing. And I think that sort of set the scene of how our appearance and how our stage is going to be.
In mind, we had our detail sheet. The detail sheet had specified the stage dimensions, what part of it was going to be used, what part was not going to be used, the lighting which will be available, and all the other detail which comes with these generic broadcast kind of shows. And I remember completely misinterpreting the staging. We had drawn up a design, which will probably pop up now. This design, we had also incorporated the backstage as part of our stage, which was a mistake, obviously, which we laugh about now, but at the time was catastrophic. But yeah.
Once again, we called Matthew James.
Yeah.
Can you please come and film the...
We had to do a video for our look and feel for the production team to have an idea of what we imagine having on the show on the night. Obviously, we had to do this in our tiny little 20 square meter studio in the middle of nowhere. Matthew James, our producer, got his phone and he was like, literally just came to shoot the little clip for us so we have something to submit. I was completely terrified of that. But at least we got the really cool design that John did, which us moving in different parts of the stage. Remember that? It was really cool. That was super pro. So our video was shit, but at least we had that little bit of a super pro kind of directional.
Our video was shit, but we still got what we wanted.
It was portrayed.
I remember we showed, for example, the TV screen showing that's our own part, which we already envisioned like that's going to be the insert on the night. We had the mannequins already said that the mannequins represented the cutouts. There was the sofa as well. We sat down on a sofa. There was also, during the time, it was us on a bike.
Keep in mind that we did not have concepts for the cutouts being Eurovision artists of the past. The car was not yet introduced. We did not have a car seat like Mesk. We had bicycles, which we were struggling to get on top of, which we were struggling to find. We found the sponsor for those ourselves. We got those to be delivered. We scrapped the plan, sent them back. It was a whole nightmare of changes to deal with, I remember.
But the question is like, we did this so homemade. We did like this I don't know, like camera transitions and whatever. Like, I beg the question, what did other submissions have? And what quality was it? We didn't question it back then. We're just like, okay, they need this, let's do this. It's like,
let's give it to them.
Let's give it to them. Like,
they'll tell us if it's
I think we were always abstract with things. We're just, okay, we're doing that. We're doing it as long as we're doing it.
Yep.
So it's 27th December. Like, all these 30-second clips of all the submissions, all the quarterfinalists. I don't know, man. It was a tremor for me.
I had 2 tremors when those came out. When I heard Regina,
for sure,
because that snippet was fire, man. I thought that was the one, and I don't blame people for thinking that would win.
Yes.
And then there was Brooks, which I was sure would do well because of Brooks' nature and character, you know.
At the time, we have to admit, the names that were constantly being soldiered through were Brooke, Aiden, and Maxine.
It was always a battle between Brooks' people and Aiden's people. That's how internet was. The thing is, what I had seen in the feedback when the videos came out was a lot of people were mentioning us as dark horses. And I love the term dark horse. I remember Valentina mentioning us as a dark horse. I remember her reaction. She put out a video on Valentina Rossi's an influencer in Malta. She had put out a video on her Instagram commenting on every song. And when ours came up, I was like skipping all of them, trying to see her reaction on ours. And when ours came up, she was like, she did that reaction. I'm like, oh God, please tell me you like it. And he said she liked it. And I'm like, oh my God, we have a chance.
That really gave me a boost when I saw the story. That was the time it gave me a really, really boost.
It's not that Valentina represented the world, you know what I mean? But at the same time, she's a very big influencer.
I wanted her validation.
Exactly.
Because again, I remember watching the videos one after each other. And by the time, it did not click to me now that apart from Malta, people from abroad are going to be listening to it as well. And now people are going to start reacting to it because by the time no one have heard the song, only us, and they just saw the image and who we are and everybody, they did not hear the song. So then I remember seeing the first comment and I was like, oh my God, the first comment. And I was so unsure and I was so insecure that I had to tell my wife, like, is this a positive or a negative comment? And she was, no, relax, it's a positive comment. And I was like, phew, okay, we started with a good start. Because again, seeing other competitors and, you know, getting all that recognition, all those comments, like, okay, this is going to win, this is going to win. Ultimately, you just feel defeated.
Constantly.
And I wasn't prepared to start taking that feedback all at once. And I remember I did not sleep that night. And the first thing, I kept on refreshing to see how much views we're getting, if we're getting new comments, if there's someone.
Now this is where our contrast really shines. That was the point where I started enjoying myself. As in when the band started getting attention, and it was the whole reason why I wanted to do it, you know, as in that was like out of all the other factors you mentioned, like if there are 99 reasons, the one reason I really wanted to do it was for our band's name to actually be known, like to become a household name on the island rather than just being an afterthought, just another group, you know, just another wedding band or another band that plays functions at the end of the year, you know. I always wanted the Busker to be a name people understand and know. And it started to take place, you know, and that's where I actually started to have fun, like in the whole process. My doubts started to melt away slightly. I started to get feedback. It started to actually become reality, you know.
Then I realized from that point, I can't look at comments. I can't look at.
You never looked at comments throughout the whole process.
I can't look at comments. I have to reassure myself within my self-approval. If it's good enough for me, it should be good enough. That gave me the courage to do the next step.
10 days before the first quarterfinal performance. Guys, we have 10 days. We need to come up with something. We need to make the first impression. And the first impression had to be perfect.
And we had our first meeting with Steven.
And he kept mentioning the name. Guys, you're late. Guys, you're late. Yes. Guys, you're late.
If anyone knows SLV, he's very much a driving force wherever he goes.
And I remember we heard the song about 6 times.
At that point, we definitely admitted to ourselves we need extra help. Anyone who doesn't know Steve was part of these big productions with Christabel, Destiny, us, then with Sara Bonici as well. So he knew his way around Eurovision, and that's why he was definitely the guy for us.
So when Steve left, we went straight into the recording booth. David put on his super strict hat, and there was no more joking.
At that point, I believed in it so much. I believed in it, and I was confused if it was me believing in it or me wanting it, and I wasn't sure which one it was. And but I really couldn't allow myself to have regrets again after that mishap with the wardrobe and everything malfunctioned for the 30-second clip. I just wanted to make sure that this is the point where we define ourselves, we place ourselves into the competition and allow ourselves to leave a mark. It was 7 January. We all were frantically looking for our outfit. Again, this is like 3 days before. I don't know what other acts do. I think they would have planned this.
Man, they had their dresses.
There was one of the participants.
Mate.
There was one of the participants who had a custom-made dress.
Yeah.
Who she had ordered, I think, months before, and we were, again, it's not a matter of comparing. It's just a matter we were late. We had no idea. It's like we needed this guidance.
There's late and there's clueless. I feel like we were clueless at the time.
That's where the sweater came in, to be fair. The colorful one, I had ordered it from ASOS.
I remember the picture, you sending it on our chat.
yeah.
I was in love with the jumper.
My problem was that I wasn't sure if I wanted to use it and move on from it, or use it and keep it. So I knew it was the image, but I don't know if it had to be revealed at a later time. But then I think we just went for it. This is what we have now. Let's use it now and see from then on. And that's what ended up being our quarterfinals outfit, which ended up being the rest.
Yeah.
Quarterfinals, the first time we get to perform the whole song as part of the competition. It was the first time other competitors were getting to hear our song.
In full.
And where we got to listen some of the songs as well. I remember, I think it was the first time we heard Aiden's song.
Yes. On the 10th of January, that's where realize sort of that we need to form our team.
Yeah.
And that's who we're going to, the trust circle.
Exactly.
And Cheryl Rofeda, who later on managed our guidance on our movements on stage and everything, came because she was there with Steve, and she was just for the first time performing the song.
Yeah.
And
especially work on me
especially
and,
for
me
for
and
me
John
and,
Paul, like as in we're not natural dancers. David is a bit more of a natural when it comes to dancing, as in kudos, bro. But that being said, as in me and John needed the help, and it did help us having specified rehearsal dates, having someone to crack the whip when you're doing something wrong. You need to have these key people to guide you.
But going down from the stage after the quarterfinals, there was a bit of hype.
There was a lot of hype, Dave.
Like two of the mentors were like, "Oh, you have a really good song there with the rights."
I remember them coming up to my ear and telling me, "You're gonna win."
Yeah, it's like, wow, that moment.
And that whisper with the bad breath, "You're gonna win. You're gonna win, man."
that felt good.
That felt
I
great,
think
man.
that gave us good
At
confidence.
that point, I was on a high. I have to admit. There was
but-
one high which we're going to mention soon, where it was the peak for me when we watched the performance together.
You're missing the big part.
Yeah,
Going
yeah,
down
yeah.
from the stage, getting round of high fives. Then Steve, we have to be spacesuits.
We need astronauts.
spacesuits.
We need astronauts.
We're like, what?
I was completely
And
against
that
any
moment-
kind of planetary or astronaut or space exploration concept.
At
As
that
some kid.
moment, Sean deflated into like, who
Sadness.
is this guy?
I don't like him anymore.
I don't like him. Kick him out.
Get rid of him.
He can take his spacesuit and shove it up.
Up his bottom.
But
yeah.
But I think
I love Steve.
again, this is where John and I were like, okay, let's see what he's all about. Sean was kind of against, because again, we're used to working together and confiding in each other, having someone exterior trying to interpret us
In a different manner.
in a different manner.
Honestly,
it's
I was
very
so
tough.
happy. I was so happy with what we had done just then, 5 minutes prior. And I finally found the light, so to speak. Like, okay, there's clarity. There's something to work on. We need to fix. Yes, we know. We're aware of this. But we don't need to throw a bomb into the project and start over.
Yeah.
And going into the astronaut vibe was going to be just that. And I couldn't.
I think
couldn't
it's just
get
a matter
behind
of creative process. People
Yeah,
need to...
and everyone has their own creative process. I get it.
And I think how Steve works and how we found out that how he works is that he jumbles up so many ideas to the point where it's just a pebble into a path of other ideas which get you to the final product. Fast forward 20th January, it was the day where our quarterfinals was going to be aired. Jean was once again abroad for the interview, and I think
my
that
God,
gave
that was
us
so good.
that gave us another leg in. Certain things are planned, but
That was so good.
are not intentionally planned.
I remember remembering telling you like, why don't you take the mannequin?
Yeah,
and sort
we-
of like represent. But the conversation stopped there. We did not mention it again.
And we did it.
And we took the mannequin, we dressed it up as John, and took
Oh
it to
my
the
God.
interview. I think we
With a
just
smiley face on his
we
face.
just didn't we didn't want to disregard the fact that we are three. We are a unit, and we just wanted each and every one of us to be represented. We couldn't pass on the opportunity to have John with us in mannequin form.
And it was in that point where people started to see the character of these three idiots, you know, and that's what I always wanted to portray. I love what.
And
what
unfortunately, there was a contrast between Francesca, who was sitting just next to us with this big, well-made, custom-made dress.
It's perfect.
And us with a mannequin.
Huge princess-like dress, and then you see us with jeans and a mannequin walking in.
That was something. Unfortunately, there's a big contrast. That's who we are. But again, that's Eurovision.
We were sitting down on the sofa, all of us with our spouses, you know. We had snacks, we had our drinks, you know, everyone was vibing, waiting for it to come on. And then suddenly the Eurovision theme comes onto the television and we're all like, okay, here it comes, man. This is make or break.
Because again, this was the first time people are going to hear the full song.
And the first time they're going to actually see some sort of a movement on stage and
and what we're all about.
Yeah, and
I remember watching it, and I was actually screen recording it for us to keep safe keep for notes later. And whilst it was airing live, and I was watching it, Mickey Mago, who was the mixing and mastering engineer for the song that we ended up using, just sent a message saying, "Are you sure you gave them the right track?" And I'm like, what? And then the next message was like, "'Cause you nailed it." And it's like, oh my God. I'm like, whew. Oh my God.
It's not funny, man.
Then I remember watching all the comments from people.
You're missing one point. I'm sorry. I have to mention. There's two things I'm going to mention. The first one was when we all started shouting when we did the turn together, which was everyone was shouting, like, and it's us on the stage, guys. Like, literally, it's us three, our spouses all shouting, and his dog. Like, and then we did a joke. We took a photo with the dog on top of our heads.
The underdogs.
Because we're the underdogs. And again, that was a
all wearing sweaters.
All wearing
sweaters.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a moment. That was just a moment where we were like, we're enjoying the process of it. It's not just pressure. I think the fact that we were so proud of what we had done up till then, I think it was already enough, but it wasn't.
Yeah, and then the feedback started.
Then the feedback, you start seeing people commenting, and then I was
Facebook
like, okay, finally we're getting actual feedback from people, because before it was nothing.
For us, it was a pivotal moment where we could infuse more of the idea of the winner attitude. We can do this. We can get much more than we set out for.
And David's confidence was rising slowly as well. You could see it, and even the way he's explaining it now, as in he rose to the occasion then with more positives coming slowly, and then the winner attitude really started becoming the thing. Like,
from then on, it was just work.
It was a lot of work, guys.
It's important to know that we still did not figure out how our performance then for this, if we were going to make it to semi-finals, how they were going to be.
There was nothing on stage. We had no idea what was going to be on stage.
We had no idea.
Just had the scenes thing.
And unfortunately for everyone, this was 20th January. The semi-finals were set to be on the 9th of February.
Yes.
And we were only to know if we made it through to the semi-finals on the, I think, 1st February, was it? 24th January.
So on the 24th of January. So for all people who don't follow MESC that closely, you have to know there are certain guidelines. You can't promote externally on your own pages, so they keep everything as equal as possible. So an artist with a massive following doesn't obviously overshadow anyone else who has a smaller following and all this. And there were obviously people who are still posting and all this, and we were constantly being warned on WhatsApp groups and all this not to promote. And there was one of the acts, which was Aiden, which apparently was found guilty of continuing to promote himself and other things, which also occurred. And there was a whole conundrum on disqualification, where Aiden was disqualified as one of the artists which was taking part in the Eurovision. So when you have two favorites like Brooke and Aiden, and suddenly one of them vanishes, you know, it was like groundbreaking at the time. Like,
the issue there was this guidelines about promotion, and I remember us feeling not just defeat. It's like the
silly,
injustice,
you know?
The injustice of like everyone's promoting. Why shouldn't we?
And we stuck by the rules.
we did, but we didn't. So we risked it, but not fully. We did take kind of makeshift photo shoot in our studio again, and we did kind of have a photo with Dance Our Own Party to with the song title to be shared on Facebook.
Mind you, we were asking the people in charge constantly, can we post this? Can we post this?
Not
and
this
they were
one.
saying yes.
Not this one.
We weren't, John?
Not this one. We saw everyone posting, and I remember the Friday for I think our aired show, we posted a reel of our song of the journey during quarterfinals, but not with our song, and that's what made it valid.
Yeah.
Whereas other artists posted
The song.
reels of the quarterfinals with the song.
And obviously there was the whole argument that the other artists also did it. I don't know why Aiden was disqualified on his own.
And,
why isn't the other artist disqualified? And then the Aiden group started like bombarding the other artists.
And I
there was
remember
whole-
perfectly as well. On that day, we were scheduled an interview. The kind of Jamie Gordon, what his karaoke.
Yeah, that was just you, right?
Yeah,
It
where
some
it was
guys.
just me, but obviously I took you guys in band form, and they had like the faces on my head. But we were all meeting there, and there were these kind of talks where everyone's like, people are breaking the rules, it's not fair, blah, 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 blah. And at a point, everyone was messaging on the chats on where we all the qualifiers were in. And everyone's like, please take these videos down, please take these photos down, they are against rules, or we have to take action. I think we did remove some photos.
We removed the
our
photo
individuals with the song titles.
We removed it.
That
one
we
on the
removed.
door?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
And the one on the sofa. We removed those. We had the reel, which didn't involve our song, but we did take it down, I think, as well, something of the sort. But then there were acts that didn't, and I think that's what triggered a reaction.
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken, it was Brooke and Aiden, no?
It was Brooke and Aiden at the time, but then
but
at the
Brooke
point
removed
Brooke
it.
did remove it, and Aiden didn't
Probably because
immediately.
you didn't even see the chat.
I think that was the case.
Yes,
I think it was the
He was
case. He
probably
didn't.
rehearsing. Like,
He wasn't, and I think I was actually with him at that time, and no one really talked to him about it. I think I was definitely intimidated by him, and I did feel this kind of injustice that some people have a leg up where it should be a leveled competition, but I think that's just life. And then 4 days later, the news broke out that Aiden was disqualified.
and the internet broke.
And unfortunately, it is that most probably led to the depopularization of Brooke, and a lot of people kind of blamed her, that she should have been disqualified as well, and that she was behind it, where from the inside I think we can say that it's not the case.
No.
As if, man. What's the purpose of taking part in a competition where you have to remove competition in order to win? What's the
it
fun of
wasn't
that?
the case.
I
And
think it created a lot of tension, and I
It did.
remember even the group when that silence.
Yeah, everyone was very
like
tense.
usually it was everyone joking around, sort of like we're building this sort of like small community, and then suddenly it went dead silence, and then I remember the chat moderator sort of like he started trying to
initiate something.
Initiate conversation to try to get life
like
back.
guys relax. Don't take the comments too seriously. Just keep on working, keep on enjoying it. It's part of the journey.
Lalo, we didn't mention the disco.
disco.
Say disco, you say party. Disco, party. Solo.
Did we end up posting
We
it?
did. Unfortunately, we were meant to post it on the day that Aiden was disqualified, and we're like,
so we didn't post it.
and we didn't post it. It was
It could have been interpreted
As
Too
wrong
bad.
rating, yeah.
Yes.
It's not the case. We don't
like
want to portray
Aiden
that.
disqualified, and we're like disco, party. There it is.
was the last word.
fantastic.
Fantastic.
I think that was, funnily enough, I believe that was what started our social media content. That.
But yes, on the 31st of January, we planned a photo shoot with a marketing company.
With two concepts, there was the pink background and the orange background. We obviously had no idea what was in store for us, and one of those photos ended up being the cover art for the song itself after Malta Eurovision Song Contest and being crowned the winners. And I remember the Monday before the semi-finals, we all kind of changed our profile picture into this image with the orange background, and we declared that this week will be an important week for us.
the props, we knew what we had to do. We had our stage planned and everything. We got cutouts made, which we had to do. Which when Cassie came to collect the stuff from my garage to take them to MFCC, he forgot the cutouts in front of the garage, which we realized only when we came to set up our stage. So I had to quickly then jet back to my garage, where I found them just waiting, resting on the wall across the road from the garage.
You cannot forget the stress of the production week. Everything was going wrong. First, my SPD got stolen.
I remember that.
Ending up in court showing the photo from the quarterfinals
This is
to
me
the judge.
doing the Eurovision, man.
It's like
I promise, it was stolen.
Then we had the issue with the staging, because obviously the stage crew did not allow us to leave the platform without wheels. So then we had to find.
You're skipping a part. We did not have platforms, John.
Oh, God.
We thought we were going to put the props directly onto the stage, and then they told us you need those to be onto a platform with wheels so we can roll them up. And then after we found platforms with wheels, after like 2 days into production week not being able to find platforms because they were all taken up by the other artists, we managed to find platforms, and then they told us of another problem. We had to bolt down the items onto the platforms, which we were not allowed to do by the people who own the platforms. So we had to use water bottles from a neighboring supermarket on the back of the cutouts, tied with cable ties and glue, which everyone made fun of while we were doing them. And apart from that, while we were setting up these bottles on the back of the cutouts, you see people coming in with welding machines to weld the lift on Brooks staging.
Wow.
And that was a big point of loss of confidence for
Stefan
me personally.
Gallia's,
Stefan Gallia working on a big, like, little... his mother was there.
On the curtains.
The projection, for the projection. A lot of things which went wrong as well with the staging. Every time we roll them up for a rehearsal, something falls off, a cutout breaks somehow. One of the water bottles falls out and rolls down the stage. There was a lot of embarrassing moments, really.
Things were piling up, so we had to divide our work.
Role, so.
We needed roles. So myself and Sean, we ended up living at MFCC. Dave was doing costume.
Man, that was another wardrobe malfunction, no?
We forgot a part.
And
we forgot a part. We had to include the part where we had the clothing change, going from the sweaters to the shiny sweaters.
The astronaut idea.
Yeah, the astronaut idea was dead. But David was actually at home sewing. Yeah, you heard right. Sewing his own outfit, which was.
But the problem was that
mind-blowing at the time for me.
we did actually hire out someone to do the costume for us. We bought the material. I was with Steve at JB Stores. It was such a moment where we're just like going through textiles together, touching them.
I went there with Steve as well for the
Illahu,
covers of the
what a
stages.
moment. and then we actually got a seamstress to do the costume, and it honestly
Didn't work out.
I don't want to use the word abysmal, but we used Michael Jackson's reference photo, and what we got in return was like, oh.
Yeah.
Nostromo.
And David had to sew his because he wanted his jumper to match the original jumper.
Yeah.
The original sweaters, like with different lined layers. Mine and John Paul's were bought, so we didn't have.
You ended up using the seamstress's glitter one.
I didn't use a basic jumper though. I had the jacket as well.
And you had from underneath. You had the one.
I did.
Yes.
Oh my
one
god,
of
forgot
these.
that.
But you had the jacket, which was glittery, and
And I had a shirt.
And John had a shirt.
And on top of that, obviously, because we have to do everything ourselves, there were the visuals.
Oh my god,
We
the
had to
visuals.
spend nights during that week finalizing the visuals, because obviously we had to present them to.
That was the guiltiest I felt throughout the whole process, because you two were working all nighters trying to do the visuals while I
But
was
you were
sleeping.
taking care of the.
Props, man.
No, but I
props,
was
you
still
know.
sleeping. You guys weren't sleeping to deal with that. I
No,
felt
that
bad.
week it was.
It was
chaotic.
nightmare.
And
It was nightmare,
I remember us posting stories on Instagram, and Valentine actually messaged, Dave needs to sleep.
The fact that we all had these responsibilities, and I remember seeing other participants sort of having everything figured out.
The thing
and
is-
people helping them. They were like, once again, we're at the station, we still cannot find anyone to help us.
I was jealous at the point, I have to admit, as in we were constantly sweating, non-stop, working morning to evening, barely going home and barely eating. And then other artists could literally just walk up, okay, and then leave again. Like, the difference between the amount of time some artists, because some others had their own like little nightmares to deal with.
Of course.
But we really struggled. That week was a nightmare. And obviously it was raining. Was that the
semi-final night?
it was the semi-final night. It was an absolute disaster, raining all day, and it led to one of my favorite babies from the whole Eurovision thing, which was Busker TV.
But the thing is this, that on the 9th, we saw so much rain that we all decided to be there very early. There was no option of leaving MFCC, and there was no option of leaving and coming back dry. We ended up doing this Busker TV, which was the point where we had nothing else to think about except the performance and enjoying it. And it was so therapeutic then.
And it was fantastic. Like, we're like, oh, are we onto something here? Like,
Yeah.
so if
It
you're
was
listening to
very
this, Nick-
spontaneous.
It was
I think.
spontaneous.
It wasn't us deciding, okay,
That artist.
because
Yeah.
we're going to gain views from them. It wasn't.
It really
was
wasn't.
like
Literally,
authentic.
we walk out of the room, we see someone.
Okay,
Busker TV, get the phone out, and that was the.
I think it was just us trying to fill in the time and not focus on what's coming next, rather than just like distract ourselves with what was going on, trying to relieve our pressure from what's about to come. But the pressure was on. So one important thing that Steve missed out from what the people want was the hey wait.
He didn't want it, man.
He didn't want it, and
So it's messy.
and
It was messy. That's the word he used.
and a lot of comments from semi-final night was, did he forget to write it? Referring to me, obviously. And I'm like, it was a creative decision. Should we bring it back for final night?
Let's ask the people.
Let's ask the people. Let's do a poll and on Instagram. And it just fled with people saying yes. And Steve was like, checkmate.
No, it's about
No.
98% were like on board to with the hey wait.
I think that's where we even started inviting even the audience, sort of like.
Yes, we're
to
trying.
feel part of.
We're trying to
us.
engage with the people so that we get some more feedback on what can work and what can't work.
Trying to boost our outcome. We never expected it to last that long. That the panic attack I got after the performance was, I think, like nothing I've ever had before. I immediately
You started crying.
cried and gasped for air. I couldn't really breathe.
Another moment where I got to know you a bit more. To be honest, I was quite impressed by that moment. I thought something happened. To be honest, I didn't.
No,
Me too.
I-
I was so convinced that we had such a good performance, and then I see him
Yes.
crying. I'm like, what happened? Did he fall?
Though the moment,
I think it was
unfortunately,
my fault. No,
it wasn't a rather fault. There was a moment where we sat back on the sofa during the second. I saw John came onto the sofa just a beat late. It was really a fraction of a moment where I got flooded with so much thoughts that I'm not giving enough. Everyone's lost. We're messing it up. It doesn't look good. That moment, I immediately went into a problem-solving mode that I have to do more. Doing more created my anxiety that I'm showing that I'm not doing enough and stuff like that. I ended up not controlling my breathing well. I ended up not managing my voice well, and I gave it all. But the moment it was finished, the relief turned into a flood of anxiety
And that turned into a
panic
big
attack.
group hug with everyone hugging him.
It
in the
was
middle,
horrible.
which
For
probably
me, it
made
was
him feel
horrible,
worse
yeah.
at the time.
It was a horrible moment to experience. I think it was just part of it. It was the stress of everything that we had gone through, and the relief that now it's finished. But then the magic of reliving it and hearing the crowd singing the song with us, even during.
We had seen videos then because they were showing us videos from the front of the stage, and we could hear the people chanting the song, and that had never happened in our history probably before. One of our
Shivers.
songs being sung.
No,
That's the first time in our history, and it was shivers. Yeah, even mentioning it now, I get
I
get the
remember
chills.
doing the dance during the final performance, like seeing people like
Buzzing.
buzzing.
The hall was mostly filled with people who are not there to support us, but they still were part of the performance. Everyone was part of the song at that point. It was again shivers. Again, it just feels like it was meant to be at that point. The biggest moment where the results were being announced.
And we were in at the center of the camera.
I was counting the numbers in my head, and I knew anything above this number is a win.
You know, all I was thinking about was I need to drink because I was so thirsty. And I needed to drink water. Like my mouth was so dry, and then I was thinking about, okay, what's going to happen if we win? It's sort of...
I was in a very disassociative moment. I had to crawl into the space where like breathing and ignoring everything that's behind me. But what will the result be? I had no idea. It's just I couldn't be in my body at that point.
And when I heard the shout of the busker, it was just, I was so happy. Like,
I can't say this.
The moment I see that clip again, it's just like, even just months after, I could just see how young we were. And it's like an experience like this changes you so much. It makes you, I think that's the biggest outcome of it, that we all of a sudden turned into something bigger. I could feel the innocence. I would want to hug us and say like, you're okay.
Giving us a hug, me and you with the hand in the trophy, lifting it up in that photo. The iconic photo I kept looking at every minute of my life for the next 6 months.
He did a good job, Albert.
Albert, great photo,
It's a really nice photo.
But that's what it really meant, at least for me. I could go back to my mom and my sisters and my girlfriend, now fiance, and give them reason why I've been missing all these nights, all these headspaces, creating music. It's just like I could show something for myself as proof that I know what I'm doing.
And that the hard work was worth it.
Yeah, it really validated my love for music and my love for artistry. And I think that's something that I could have never gotten if I didn't go through Eurovision.
Yeah. Thing is, like, seeing so many people and how a song united like half of the island, and people were telling me, I've never seen a reaction like this. It's like the Brook people and the Aden people made peace. You know,
That's true.
For the irrelevant people that nobody knew 2 weeks ago. And that's what was so special about it. Like, my family group, they changed the profile picture on the WhatsApp chat to a picture of me with the like a crown on, and like it felt justified. I think the point you made is like spot on. It feels justified. And
during the time, I believe we really hit our peak there, sort of like peak happiness.
Oh, I was the happiest guy in the world.
Everything, like, even afterwards, random people, I don't even know them, they come hugging you, and I'm like, how should I react, you know? I believe even the other participants, they were happy, genuinely they were happy for us.
Yes,
so,
I felt that as well.
And I felt that unity. Then I remember Gordon coming to us, and he was like, now you're going to be watched by
200
million people, and I was like,
shit. There was a party after the actual Eurovision thing. And we were all outside the party, obviously. Classic, the Busker being
Our
away from
own
the party,
party.
yeah. And they're like, listen, there's a party inside, guys. I'm like, there's a party. And then they put us on the little sofa on the car seat, and they rolled us into the party. It was ridiculous.
There's no way how to really react to people celebrating you. There were people actually genuinely happy for us, and it's not as common that people would be genuinely happy for you. And for a long while that lasted, up until the next day where shit started hitting the fan.